started. So let me click over and then so Facebook can see us live. So hi, Facebook. Welcome to our early Monday morning podcast that I never do. And this will probably be the last time I do that. Not really liking having an early, but I am about making sure that those that need their voice to be heard, I give them an outlet for that. So that's why we're here twice this week. So bonus, you guys are all welcome. You get to have 4 guests this week that you get to learn from and be educated, motivated, and inspired. And welcome Melissa Lamson and Renee Reisch to the show. Reisch? Reisch. Okay, good. All right. So Facebook, we're getting ready to go live now on our podcast. So everyone stay with us. And don't forget to subscribe, by the way. If you guys haven't subscribed to our podcast by now, we've been going for over a year. It's really good inspiration weekly just to listen to a bunch of ladies share their genius. I mean, come on, right? All right, here we go. Hi, listeners. Welcome to Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and we are so happy you are joining us this week. I think we are in week number 7 of our lockdown and our quarantine. Now, I have to say, it's really not much of a difference for me since I work from home, and I have a lot of ladies that we've been interviewing that they've said the same thing. However, I'm old, which means I don't have little kids at my house. And so I'm not homeschooling. So some of you have said, yeah, it's not that great because it's been hard for me to get my schedule going and be able to work the way that I've been wanting to work. And I want to let all of you ladies out there know that you are doing a phenomenal job. Give yourself some grace. You're doing wonderful. We can only do the best we can do every day. And guess what? That day didn't turn out like you wanted it. Don't worry about it. There's tomorrow. So wake up tomorrow and try again. Stop beating yourself up. We are doing the best we can. And it's really tough because, my husband and I both own our own businesses and we're in this house a lot together. And I miss my 11 grandkids. They've literally locked my grandkids down. And literally in the last 3 days, I got calls from 2 kids that lifted the ban because the kids say that there's germ bugs. And I was like, I'm really nervous about them thinking we have germ bugs and what that's going to do moving forward. But they lifted the ban, and I'm happy to report that I was able to snuggle with 4 of my grandkids in the past 3 days. So it has been a wonderful weekend for me, and I hope you all had a wonderful weekend as well. And we have so much at Lead Up for Women to talk about today and some beautiful guests. I want to first start out by just reminding you, we have online webinars, and because of the overwhelming response with our members, we used to do our Teaching Tuesday only on Tuesdays for the second Tuesday of the month. We're now doing them the second and the fourth Tuesday of the month. Another opportunity for you to be motivated, inspired, and educated. And our first one is going to be on May 12th. Dee Dee Wong is going to be teaching you how to monetize your message. Free webinar. All you have to do is go to Facebook, go to our website, leadupforwomen.com. I know we're global, so many of you are listening from other countries. Just go on the website. All of the information's there. You'll get a confirmation email with your Zoom. I really recommend all of you join this one to learn how to create that elevator pitch. We talk about stories all the time on Lead Up for Women. Stories are powerful. How can you create a message, which is your story, that is powerful and inspires other people? That's what we're here for. So I recommend that you come and join that, because it costs you 1 hour of your time. That is it. The next one we're going to be doing is on May 26th. I love Carrie Connolly. She's also a member of Lead Up for Women, and she teaches about vision is victory. And she says this: if you have a hope, a wish, and a prayer up here in your head, she helps you get it out on paper. So you might be coming up with some really awesome ideas right now of business or what you can do when we come out of this. Here's a great opportunity for you to get those ideas out on paper and start taking actionable steps at creating the future that you want. I mean, this is going to be a really good May. And I know we might be coming out of this like scratching and crawling out of our houses, right, to get out into public. But I do recommend that you take some time on a Tuesday morning to educate yourself. And if you're not already doing that, I'm definitely going to ask that you take one thing per week that you're educating yourself on that you don't know now. It's a great opportunity for us to do that, right? Because if learning is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. And since we're talking about leadership today, I would like to introduce our first guest, which is Melissa Lamson. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Colleen. Appreciate it.
This is so exciting for you to be here. Melissa and I met only months ago when I think we were introduced by another similar friend of ours. And Melissa, what she does is amazing. You know, I really feel like Melissa serves our corporate side of the women that are part of Lead Up for Women, because we have so many women that are self-employed and entrepreneurs, but we also have so many women that are in corporate. And just like me, just like you, and just like our other guest, Renee, who's with us today, we've all been in corporate America and, you know, have been on that ladder climb. And that's why I started Lead Up for Women, because I wanted a place where we could flourish and tap into our power and not judge, and women could actually lift each other and support each other and not compete with each other, which happens a lot in corporate America, Melissa, right? Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, Melissa, why don't you tell our listeners? Sometimes I introduce my guests, but today I want you to talk to the listeners a little bit about who you are. So let's start back, you know, before you started your Lamson Consulting. So go back and tell me, what makes Melissa Melissa? Like, why are you so awesome? Tell me about you as a person.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, and I'll do sort of a mild correction. I actually did not spend much time in the corporate world. I did have, my first career was in the art world. So I managed an art gallery between Chicago and New York. And I did that basically right out of college. And it was a small business, but, you know, exciting. I had a lot of very interesting experiences there with big art collectors and museums and gallerists and so forth. And then I started to get a bit sort of disillusioned by that whole sort of market, because it was very transactional. And I was very interested, to your question, I was very interested in society, in social change, in making the world a better place. I was idealistic in that way, but I really felt committed to people, and how could people really achieve their dreams and live the life that they wanted to live. And so I started doing a lot of volunteer work on the side, and it was nonprofits, and they were difficult nonprofits. I mean, they were battered women shelters, or there was an organization called Parents Anonymous, so helping parents with, you know, just dealing with kids, especially as single parents or just impoverished parents and families. And I thought to myself, gosh, you know, how does this get fixed? You know, how do people just get out of these really dire situations and feel inspired and motivated and just loved? And so I was wondering about whether I was going to go in sort of on the nonprofit side, or whether I would try to go in on the corporate side and find a way to kind of pull people up that way, instead of sort of pushing people up from the nonprofit side and social change side. And so I started reading some books, and I was always really curious about the world. I was lucky enough to grow up in a family that traveled, that was very global in their mindset. I was in a multilingual family. I spoke Spanish as a kid, and I took French in college, and I just found languages also really interesting. And so I was really excited by the idea of diversity internationally and also within the US. And so I started reading a little bit about that, and I heard that there was something called a cross-cultural trainer at the time. And I thought, gosh, what the heck is a cross-cultural trainer? And so I wrote to the authors, right? This is like actually writing letters to the authors. Sent in the mail. And asking them, you know, how did you do this? What is this? What does this mean? And I found out that it was really an intersection of psychology, economics, sociology, anthropology, all the things that were interesting to me. And I thought, gosh, I want to do this. And I saw that it could be used in all different industries across, nonprofit, for-profit, et cetera. And so that's really how it started. And it became my passion to really help people understand how to communicate across cultures and diversity and different opinions and different personalities. And that's where I started my career.
So tell me the core of, you started the career because there was a flame of passion behind what you were doing. What is that one seed of passion that was really driving you to do this? There's got to be something that resonated with you of why were you doing this for so many other people now?
Yeah, I guess I was again also lucky to grow up in a family that was always rooting for the underdog. It was really important to support charities, to march for human rights, to do the right thing and make sure that people had the right thing, and live the right life. And I don't mean that from a moral sense, but I just mean to be able to have the gifts that they would want in their life.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I guess, mentality, I brought that into the world, and I wanted to do it on a level that would really sort of bridge, I guess, the social aspect to also the corporate aspect. And so it's always been, I guess, my core value to say, all right, great. So we're working in these great money-making machines. We have these amazing products and services. People are making billions of dollars on all these amazing things. And I love these products and services. And how do we make sure that people are also living their best life, particularly when they are working in these corporations, but also if they want to start their own business?
That's so important. We talk all the time about just be yourself and be authentic. It's people doing business with people.
That's right.
And I love what you mentioned about it being transactional. And nothing drives me crazier than a networking event where people walk around like robots and they're transactional, right? They
That's
only
right.
want to meet you to do business with you, to have a transaction with you. Well, what if you just wanted to meet me to say hi and get to know who I was, right? Because it's that courtship and that knowing people and caring about them and connecting and serving. And then later you can ask for, hey, so would you like to do business with me, right? So how are you today? I know let's talk about your pivot, because you and I talked about collaborating on partnerships moving forward with a lot of these workshops that you have put together and put so much time into creating. And I said to you, oh my gosh, Melissa, there's so many women across the United States that are in corporate America, that are in the Lead Up for Women community, that would love these types of workshops. Let's talk a little bit about the workshops that you're doing.
Sure.
And now that we're in quarantine, and there was one Friday, wasn't there one this week on Thursday or?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what those workshops were.
We actually bumped it to June.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you were still doing them in person or if you've changed those. So talk a little bit about it. Yeah. Like, what is the outcome that you hope every person attending is getting from that workshop?
For the workshops. Yeah. So just a little bit on the pivot. So it's still in the wheelhouse of leadership, right? And diversity in leadership. And so with the idea of women in leadership was always really important to me. And so in the last 10 years or so, I had the opportunity to really develop a lot of research and do a lot of research with female executives internally. And so worked on a project with Anita Borg, and also just several companies were able to participate and just interviewed literally hundreds, if not thousands of women, both in the workshops as well as just as in focus groups, to really understand, what do you need? What's the situation? How could we help you with your career trajectory in whatever way, whatever that looks like, right? Because it's not only about, moving up the ladder. It might just be certainly finding more interesting projects or feeling more valued at work, or even creating more work-life balance. And so this workshops got created about 10 years ago for internal clients, and I was working them internally, and they were the most highly requested workshop, and there was a big waiting list for these, and I was super excited and proud that that was the case. And then I decided to just launch them this year as kind of open enrollment, although they are highly curated, because I think it's really important we get the right mix of women there, because the power in the workshop is really what these women can give each other.
Sure.
And how they can support each other and just share with each other. So I try to make sure that that's a fit. And so we're going to launch one this week, to your point, here in Phoenix. We bumped that to June. We have some coming up in Boston. We have one in SoCal, and then also in the Midwest. And so, yeah, reaching out to the network. And so in terms of your question about what the learnings are, it's really about how do I understand my communication style compared with others? And I talk about gender energies, which I think is really important because we all have male and female energy right inside us. Men have male and female, and women have male and female. And so I talk about those gender energies so we understand sort of where do we fall on the spectrum. So I definitely communicate with a little bit more female energy. I like harmony. I like collaboration. So all of those pieces in that. So I share some of the research and the data on that. And then once we get really clear about, so who am I and how do I prefer to communicate, then we talk about different cases. So we'll do a lot of casework, a lot of role plays, and then the other modules are around networking and then also self-promotion. So how do I authentically self-promote, talk about what I do, talk about my accomplishments, feel good about that, know when I need to lean in more to that in certain situations, particularly internally. And then I flip networking on its head. I'm not a big fan of people running around and networking at a lot of events. I actually find that to be a waste of time. But I do share with them some kind of hopefully more unique and time-saving ways to really develop a strong network. So that's essentially what it's about. But we also talk about work-life balance. We talk about how to ask for what you want. We talk about negotiating money. It's a 2 half-day sessions packed with all kinds of good stuff. And the idea is that you come out and you can implement everything right away. It's not just sort of a theoretical or nice feeling conversation, but you really take action when you leave.
It's excellent. I mean, it's just packed full of all the information that we need as leaders, especially in that corporate world. It's even great if you do own your own business and have employees, or just for an individual who is self-employed. I feel like there's so much we could learn from this if you haven't spent a lot of time in corporate America. Especially one of my one thing I wrote down was self-promotion. Do you find that females, and I know the statistics on this, but I would love your opinion, that you find that females lack in self-promotion?
Yeah, I'd love to get Renee's input on this too, but lacking in self-promotion. Yes, I find most women, no matter how high up they are in an organization, find it icky. That's how I describe it.
Great word.
Yeah, because we're just not taught from birth to really say like, hey, talk about your accomplishments, and that's normal, and that's how you get ahead, and that's people want to hear about that, and it helps you, and it's also, you should be proud of what you work on. A lot of us, and I think especially as we go high up the ranks, we sort of know intellectually we need to do that, but there is an element of like, oh, for God's sake, I'm just working and I'm doing a good job because that's what I do, because it's my job. And why do I need to like tell everybody about it? And it's, everybody knows me. They should just reward me based on that. But I've heard time and time again, because of the lack of that ability to just talk about accomplishments and talk about them, as I said, comfortably and authentically in the way that makes you feel good about it. We don't all have to come out and do a big song and dance around it. But is that there'll be a man who's more apt to have been conditioned to do that, right? And trained to do that and told to do that somewhere along the lines, will do it. And they may not necessarily be as good or as qualified, but they'll get the promotion or they'll get the recognition because they're talking about it.
Yeah.
And it really goes back to to basics. I mean, we're all so busy. No one really keeps in mind what everybody's actually doing. Even the people that you're managing yourself, right? Or that are managing you. They don't know necessarily what you're working on. We can't presume that they do. So to help them package it and to articulate it so that they can promote you is really what's key.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And so if you get one tidbit of education from this conversation we just had with Melissa, is, show up. And I use the word show up for self-promotion, show up for yourself, and you've got to be present and really be seen. And what are the steps that you show up to be seen? And Melissa has put together that formula in her teachings for her workshops for you to be able to do that. And so I highly recommend, and you said these are only in person right now, right? You've just pushed them. You're not doing any of them online.
So I do have an online version. It is possible to do.
Oh.
And we may switch June to online if we need be, and then if we need to. And it's not my preference, but it certainly works. And I think with all the tools, we can make it work well, where there's still that bond and that connection, because there's a lot of group work and pair work and so forth. So yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
Yeah. And I want to make the point to everybody out there listening, especially women or men that are listening right now that have employees in a large company, and you're all interdispersed right now and working from home. Mm-hmm. Now is the time to really be putting the game plan together on what the future looks like in your company. Here's an opportunity for you to hire Melissa to come into your company, for her to be able to assist the employees. And I look at it as really structuring just a more cohesive culture within a company. And this is something you've been doing for years. Yeah. And not only do you work with big corporations, you also offer online and in-person workshops. So Melissa, how could a company reach you if they wanted to reach out to learn more about your services, or reach out to you for a free consultation, or somebody on your team?
Sure. Actually, to that point, Colleen, I'll just mention two quick statistics. Yeah. In one company, we increased women in leadership positions by about 20%. It started at 22, and we moved to about, well, a little bit less, 37% women in manager positions over the course of 2 years. And it
girl.
It was really great. And this workshop, a lot about dispelling myths around becoming a leader. What does that look like? What does that mean? And then at another company, we increased retention by about 50% of women in the company, because we had a real turnaround there because of attitudes. And part of that too, and that's my third point, is that I also do workshops with men, because it's a little different content, obviously, but it's really important for them to understand, obviously, how can they support women, work with women, be successful themselves with women, right? Especially if they have a manager who's a woman. So reaching me, Melissa at LamsonConsulting.com. So my website's Lamson, my last name, Lamson, consulting, all one word.com. Be happy to hear from you.
Increasing retention of your employees is, I believe, the number one pain point for any business, employee retention.
Yes.
So if that's all you're looking to get out of this, that is worth it enough. Because, as you know, there's several options out there, and coming back out of this into a new reality, I guarantee you, your employees are going to feel a little scattered and have reevaluated what their futures look like and who they're working for. So I really believe now is the time. If you want to be able to create that cohesive team, you want to be able to elevate women in leadership, you want to be able to help your team understand how to have those conversations between males and females, so everyone's running at the same speed on the same page. That's how things get done, right? As a team. And oh my gosh, it's just such a major asset, Melissa.
Thanks, Colleen. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I am too. And I'm excited about your workshops that you're having, and can't wait to attend. I really wish I could go to the one that was this week, because like I said, I travel a lot, and that's the one pain point for me right now is I realize that, when you travel, you take things for granted. So I used to travel a lot, which was probably 3 weeks out of the month. Then I didn't like traveling anymore. I didn't want to go, on vacation because I was traveling too much. And then now that I'm not traveling at all, and the choice is really slim on whether we should travel or not and where we go, I just miss it. And so I think there's so much that we can reflect on. And if you're an employer or an employee, Now's the time to really look at education for your team. Melissa,
Mhm.
that's so thankful that you were here with us today.
Thanks.
And you're just
Absolutely.
you are, to me, you just hold this light so bright for cohesiveness of teams and really truly developing leaders. And I believe each one of us that are called to be leaders hold a specific lamp. And, moving forward, your work is about supplying oil to other people's lamps. And, ask any employer, they want their employees to be confident. They want them to promote themselves. They want them to enjoy where they work because they're more productive
That's
when
right.
that happens.
Well, you make a really good point there, because one of the things I say, and this is the big aha that happens for women, is self-promotion isn't about self.
Yeah.
Self-promotion is about your company. It's
Mhm.
about your boss. It's about your boss's boss. It's about your peers. It's about your own team.
Yeah.
The more you self-promote, the better it is for everybody. So as soon as we start looking at it as a community effort,
Mm-hmm.
right, then we tap right into the way women think. Oh my
Right.
gosh, self-promotion is helping everyone. I
Right.
like that. I can get on board with that.
Yes.
And one more amazing story. So there was this man I was sitting next to on a plane. He was the CEO of a construction company. And I said to him, what is the difference between men and women in your company? Like, what have you noticed in your own career, as we shared about what we both worked on? And he said, men ask me for money. He goes, they've always asked. He goes, and just because they ask, I'll give them at least 50% of what they've asked for. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I said, so what do women do? He goes, they don't ask. And I said, and what does that mean to you? He goes, they're not leadership material. I said, wait a minute, what? He said, women don't ask me for a raise. I don't think they're leadership material, because if they can't advocate for themselves, they can't advocate for me, my products, my company, their team. And I went, whoa, I'm going to tell every woman I know about that.
Yeah.
You said that, because that's it right there.
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful.
That's the perception,
Yeah.
right, of a male leader,
Yeah.
that you don't ask and you don't advocate.
Yep. Keyword today, advocate for yourself in everything that you do. And, and it can be in your personal life too right now, advocate for the time that you might need for self-care because you're homeschooling and, you're cooking way more. That's a pain point for me as well than I used to ever in the past, right? I just get to the point where I'm like, all right, find a small business close that we can support because I want to order takeout. I just can't cook another meal. And it's only the two of us, but I feel like I'm in the kitchen a lot. And, and then there's a lot of leftovers. So advocate for yourself. And once you get in the habit, here's the point Melissa's making. Once you get in the habit of advocating for yourself, it just becomes second nature. And then you automatically, I tell people the definition of a leader is that you have a follower, not because someone gave you a title on a business card and put you in a position. That doesn't automatically make you a sought after leader. A leader really has people that look up to them, that follow them, that want to be, follow in their footsteps. So by advocating for yourself, you're showing other women, like we talk about, when you're advocating for yourself, you're leading up and then you're leading the ladder down so we can pull other women with us. And that's how we become a community. I love that, Melissa. Thank you so much. And make sure you stay with us because we're going to be talking to Renee now. And I definitely want us to be able to have a conversation moving forward. So what I love about Renee is, yes, Renee was in corporate America for over, 25, 30 years. But what I love about Renee is she took something that she went through, as most people would shrink back to be very, very, very small and not try to speak out. And she took that and turned it into a teaching moment and a blessing and an effort moving forward for her to help other women advocate for themselves and to use their voice moving forward. So Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for having me.
So happy that you're here. So I didn't even mention Melissa's also an author. And then at the end, I'll have Melissa mention, her book, but Renee is an author as well. And she took her story and wrote that into a book. So Renee, tell us, there's her book right there, Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Chains and Unleash Your Greatness. Like that is everything Lead Up for Women stands for, everything we're doing with changing the world and helping women one little piece at a time. So Renee, welcome to the show, and please tell our listeners, why are you so awesome?
Thank you so much, Colleen. And Melissa, I am going to add on to your point as we start going with this conversation, because you said you wanted to hear my take on something.
Yeah.
So I tucked it away. I didn't want to interrupt you, so I'll talk to that in a minute. It's really, like you said, Colleen, it's finding your own voice. In corporate America, I was there, as you said, it was, a couple of decades, a quarter of a century. And I didn't realize, because when you're in that role that you're playing, because we're all energy, we're in certain roles at different points in our time, you don't really realize what your true purpose is. And in losing my voice in 2013 to an illness that literally took it away, I mean, doctors didn't know if I'd ever speak again. I was laying on a gurney in the ER with terrible pain. I had sores all over my throat. And it's a virus, it's viral pharyngitis. And it's very poignant that we're interviewing today, because what I went through is very relatable to what's going on now in 2020 as we do this interview. And I couldn't be with the public. I was quarantined. If anybody were to visit me, they had to wear a mask. If I were to go in public, I had to wear a mask. This is like a deja vu of what's happening. I know it's this timing for this interview is incredible. And it was really a very difficult time, because I not only experienced the pain of the physical pain of these sores that had riddled my vocal cords, of not being able to speak, and I couldn't swallow. It was like razor blade sharp to swallow anything. So I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink. It was just extreme pain, and the pain of that, but it was the pain of not being with my loved ones. Nobody could see me, I couldn't see anybody. But it was also the pain of just having to go within, and I don't think I was prepared for that at that moment, because I was on the go mode rather than the be mode. And I don't think people are in the be mode often enough. Now you are forced to be, so to speak, in this, because of this COVID that's going on right now, COVID-19. And it's really what I realized then is, and I knew I was a people pleaser. I didn't speak my voice, use my voice, or speak my truth. And Melissa, you mentioned earlier, you wanted my take on what that was about, what in corporate, why women don't ask for things, because we are really afraid to use our own voice for the fear of judgment. Mm-hmm. Whether you're in corporate America and you think, well, God, you're an entrepreneur, you're a manager, you're this, you're that. Of course, you're in that leadership role, that you're confident. Because you're in a role, it doesn't mean you have all the confidence. Look at that, another voice that you're supposed to have. Mm-hmm. And I was a manager, yet I was able to coach others, but yet I didn't take that advice of what it really meant to be a manager and a leader. Are not the same things. You're managing situations. You're not necessarily leading. Mm-hmm. And I needed to be the leader that I was always looking for, but was in me. I always equated to Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She had the power the whole time, right? Mm-hmm. But she was looking for it from, the courage. She was looking to outside sources. She was looking for different things, the heart. She went to different sources to get what she always had. Mm-hmm. And if we take that time to be quiet and to go within, we will realize that we have that courage, we have that love, we have that power. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you need somebody else to harness it, for you, and to show you the way. Mm-hmm. Because that's what I do now for other women, because I went through it physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, in so many levels, in so many ways. Yeah. Because you can't really help others until you help yourself. And once you do, you can ask for things, whether it is in a regular job in corporate America or in your own life. You have to be willing to get quiet and to take that time in losing my voice, I found my voice.
So Renee, do you, it's just such a beautiful story and I love to hear it every time. Do you find that your devastating illness that you had was one of the greatest gifts at this, and blessings as well for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We always hear like this happened to me, like, and at the time, 2013, it happened to me. I was not the person I am today by any means.
Yeah.
By any means. One of my chapters, I call it says sunrise, sunset, the title of one of my chapters, because that's all I did was look at my window and saw sunrise and sunset.
Yeah.
I was in so much pain. I couldn't wait for a day to end. I wanted to go to sleep so I can get out of the pain. But yet I would wake up in the middle of the night from the pain, crying. So you can't really escape what's there. You have to go through it to get to the other side of it. And things happen for you.
Yeah.
You don't realize your greatest pains are your greatest breakthroughs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. And you talked about having to self-reflect and be, because we're always on the go. And we've talked about this with experts, and we've talked about this on the podcast in the past several weeks while we've all been in quarantine. And what we have come to realize is this opportunity that we have right now to slow down and be able to pause and reflect and discover and uncover and tap into some of these other opportunities. It's giving us a different perspective and an outlook moving forward. And you can either see that as it's happening to you. I'm in lockdown. There's no toilet paper. I don't like wearing a mask when I go out. It goes on and on and on, right? My wages have been cut, or I've been laid off, or, I want to look at that opportunity and say, if a door was shut and now is the time that you see that your path is changing or pivoting, what opportunities are out there for you? And this is really hard to do alone. So Renee, you went through this with who? Yourself? Did you have other people surrounding you to help you go through this? What was your community like during this time?
My community was me, and I'm going to say she's my angel in heaven, my best friend in the entire world, who's now with me and watching over me, with my dad, who's also in heaven. And she was and always will be my pillar of strength. Yeah. Because we all have that person in our life that when you fall, that they're there to lift you up. Mm-hmm. And she was there. She was there. During that sunrise, sunset, looking out the window, I would see her pulling up my driveway. Never knew when she was coming, but she always did. And she would cook. She made homemade chicken, and she would bring me Jello and things she thought that would give me nourishment, because she knew I wasn't taking care of myself, because I couldn't. I was in so much pain. I was withering. I was withering away. The pain was just so much that I thought I was going to be passing in that way, to be quite frank.
It's a scary time. And for some people where they've really never had this time in their lives happen, this can be a very scary, devastating time for people, especially with what is happening in the world, the deaths that are happening, the worry, the fear of the news coming in. And I say block it, right? Get on once a day, get to the heart of the news of what the information that you need daily that changes every 24 hours, but really don't harp on it, listen to it as a regular stream, because, unconsciously that is not good news that's coming into filtering through your head. But, Renee, you made a very good point, which is exactly what I wanted the point for you to make was we're not meant to do this alone. That's why Melissa talks about community, Lead Up for Women. We talk about community. You're talking about, I couldn't have gotten through what I did if I didn't have those specific people in my life to lean on. So I want the message for females to be that we don't have to shoulder everything on our own. We don't have to be the beacon of strength and put everything on our shoulders. You know, we can build a community around us of people that we can depend on, especially somebody like Renee. When you have the hurt and the learning and the illness that Renee's been through in her rear view mirror now, right? It's not in her windshield anymore. It's in her rearview mirror. So she's able to take that experience and bring it forward as a lesson for other women and to help them when they are dealing with this hurt or illness or scarcity feelings that are in their windshield. Because when you're in the middle of it, your life looks a lot different today than when you were in the middle of it several years ago, right?
Yeah, it's like when you're in the picture, you can't see outside the frame.
Right.
Because you're right in the
Talk
middle
about that a
of
lot.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with that, now I can and am able to, and I have wonderful clients who I'm able to help and support. And at one of the events before this, lockdown here, I was at an event and you had to stand up and say who you are, what you do, your 30-second speech. And afterwards, two women separate from each other came up to me and said, I heard you talking about what you do. And they said they had lost their voices in abusive relationships. They had physically also lost their voices. Yeah. So I knew that I had lost it physically, but I knew that I had really lost it almost more so in life. Yeah. And when God brings you to it and through it, there was a reason. I did not know it at the time. Yeah. I'm thinking, holy crap, what happened? Yeah. And I know now that it happened for me to be the leader for other women. Yeah. To help them through their pains in their life, whether it is, emotional, whether it is physical. A lot of times we beat ourselves up. The abuse doesn't necessarily have to be from an outside source. It could be your own abuse. Mm-hmm. As we beat up ourselves to black and blue with our limiting beliefs and our why did I do this? I should have done that. And whatever those things are, those stories. But those stories that we create are just that, they're stories. And when we tell ourselves the stories, the thoughts become the words, become the beliefs, become the actions. Mm-hmm. And we're taking not exactly the best actionable steps to help ourselves. There's better ways. And I'm here to support women who do that, who, they don't believe in themselves, they have those limiting beliefs. Yeah. Whether it is, as I said, from a relationship or the relationship with themselves. Yeah. The most important relationship you must start with is that of yourself. Sure. And that's what I'm here to support, because we need that. And, it is community. It's about having somebody. If I didn't have my best friend during that time, by the grace of her and by the grace of God above, I got through that. Yeah. When I never thought I would ever get through it. Yeah.
It's very important to master yourself. We talk about it all the time, and I talk about being you and just authentically being you. And that's the strongest piece of who you have, without all of the layers, and talking about how you can master you. Once you've mastered you, you can master your success. But until you've actually mastered you, many women don't want to stop long enough to tap into mastering what could be going on with them, mentally or physically or emotionally. But if we don't, I use it like the analogy of, using the oxygen masks on the plane. Yeah. As females, we're such nurturers, right? We want to take care of everyone else. Again, back to Melissa's point about advocating for yourself. You wouldn't make it past row one if you tried to help everyone on the plane put their masks on and you didn't have yours on first. Right. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? So Renee, very, very, very powerful advice about really, again, advocating for ourselves, understanding that it is important for us to work on us first. So Renee, if someone wanted to be able to consult with you and have some free consultation time to be able to really understand if, you're the right coach for them. And I want to push this point one more time. with everything we've talked about today, this is not about you being a loner and going out on your own to try and figure it out. The most successful companies, the most successful people in the world, they're the ones that build a community around them of people. They're constantly learning. They're constantly tapping into resources. So Renee, how can somebody reach you?
Well, they can go to my website. It's reneereisch.com.
Okay, let's spell that. So it's ReneeReisch.com for those of you that are listening on the podcast. And if you wanted to see this video, you could just hop over to the Lead Up for Women Facebook page as well. She'll have a link in there. And what are some other resources that you have?
And then I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. Please send me a private message. And actually, if they can reference this podcast, because then I'll know these women are from this, and men too, if they're interested. My main niche is women, but certainly if a man comes to me and said, Renee, I would love your assistance, I'd be more than happy to help him as well. But it is definitely, don't do it alone. I'm gonna bring up a point about this book that I wrote that I'm so proud of. It did get to #1 on the day we launched.
Congratulations!
It's also international now as well. So yeah. But what I really wanted to say is that at the end of each chapter, it's only 83 pages, guys. It's really it's a quick, very, very powerful read. What is really important is the takeaways. At the end of each chapter, I have takeaways, and they're very short chapters, but I believe in the power of the pen. Yes, I have a 99-cent ebook, which you can certainly download. It's great to have, but I really encourage you to get the book, which is like $9.99. And I purposely, put it at that price because I wanted it to be affordable to the masses. The power of the pen. It is so important. When you write things down, we write our goals, we write our to-do lists. We write all these things down. Why? Because they're important to us. I post questions to you, my readers, because this book was written not about me, but for you. And to help you be the best version of yourself you can, and to be the leader of your life. And I am here to help you do that and navigate the waters of life together.
Oh, yeah.
So this is really, really critical to, if you can get the book, I really encourage you to do so. Use every chapter. You have questions that they are geared right to you. I talk to you in the book. I am with you on this journey, and I would love to be with you on your journey in life. Please message me. I am offering a 30-minute complimentary consultation for all the listeners out there. Please connect with me. I would love to set up a time to connect with you.
Thank you, Renee. I can definitely feel your heart is so full of wanting to serve others and really help them through a time where they need you. And now may be the time, and someone will know in their heart if now is the time that they need to reach out to talk with someone and have that coach there to help them through. Sometimes, it's why we're always reaching out to others that are the experts. And Melissa, you wrote a book as well, didn't you? Did you want to mention that book before we wrap up today?
Sure, little different topic, but it's called The New Global Manager, Managing in Complex Environments.
Yeah.
So it's all about how to really up-level your manager skills, both at home and abroad. Yeah.
Oh, I think it ties in perfectly because what we're talking about today is advocating for yourself and using your voice. And so, and to do that, it's not always instinctual, which means we need to work on it. We need to learn more about it. We need to study more about it, and we need to practice it.
There's a course I also just launched actually last week. It's a manager skills course that's pre-recorded. It's online. It's on my website under courses. So lamsonconsulting.com, and then under courses.
Right.
And it's just a self-led course.
Great. Make sure we put those resources below on our Facebook page as well. Well, ladies, today was so wonderful. Thank you so much for advocating for females, for joining us today on our show, and for using your voice to inspire others to advocate for themselves and use their voices. So thank you. It was a beautiful message that you both shared today. And I wanted to remind everybody next week, next podcast episode, I will say, because it's not next week, it's actually in 2 days. The next episode that we're going to have that will go live on Facebook and will also be available on all of our podcast outlets will be Jenna Rodriguez and Wendy Yates. These are two really strong females that are self-entrepreneurs, and they're in leadership and transformation. Jenna also owns her own podcast called Brave Masters, where she interviews women entrepreneurs. She's just a beautiful person. And Wendy Yates is the founder of the WellFit Human Retreats. And, she really advocates also about focusing on yourself and the well-being of a whole person and everything that means. And she's a CEO and designer of a design studio. So I'm really excited to have them with us next week. I'm bringing on a co-host with me, Dr. Carolyn Candido from Hawaii. She's going to be talking to us about building our immune systems and a summit that she's releasing that we can all, I just advertised it this morning through Lead Up for Women. It's a free summit, and she's interviewing 20 some online specialists and doctors. Half of them are doctors. I had the opportunity to be interviewed by her, so I was super honored to be amongst all of these doctors to be interviewed about aging. Really, it talks a lot about how we can age gracefully, but it talks a lot about taking care of yourself. And so showing up for yourself. So that is my message for all of you today. And remember, you're the only you that will ever be, and you are the only you that will ever be. So think about that for a minute. How you pioneer your future and how you write your story moving forward is up to you. So I want to leave that with you today. And I want to say, be you and be strong. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. All right. We are out. So say goodbye to everybody on Facebook. See you guys. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to look below for all the links.